Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's your man Earl, episode 162. Today is June 11th, 2023, Sunday. Been a great day. I had opportunity to have online worship service, aka online worship sermon. The Lord blessed us with practical teaching, practical living. With that being said, of course, we are still in the Visionary's Handbook, and today's subject matter happens to be 4 steps to bouncing back from failing. Say it again. 4 steps to bounce back from failing. And first of all, I need to clarify something really quickly. There's a difference between failing and failure. Okay? There's a difference between failing and failure. Failing is part of the process. To grow anything, you're going to have to fail because you don't know everything. So you're going to experience trial and error, and you're going to experience failing. Failure is when you let failing stand. You become a failure instead of failing. On the road to success, you will experience plenty of failing. You fail at this, you fail at that, you fail at this, you fail at that. Okay, but when you become a failure, and I'm parsing words, so obviously this is not exact according to season and time and when you experience failing and when you experience so-called failure. So I'm parsing words on purpose to get you guys to understand that you decide when it's a failure and when it's a learning process. I'm going to say it again. You decide when it is a failure / a learning process. Okay, trial and error can also be described as I'm failing until I figure out the formula, or I'm failing until I figure out the proper packaging, or I'm failing until I figure out the proper design that's going to make the product or service lucrative. All right, so don't be afraid of failing. All right, so here are the quick 4 steps. Number 1, you got to admit when your product or service is not right. Okay, you have to admit when your product or service is not correct. Admit it, move on. All right, some of us hold on to products and services way too long when we've lost way too much money, when we've lost a customer base or a client, etc., etc., etc. We hold on to things way past the point of understanding that what we're doing is not right. So first step, admit it. Second step is this: watch your resources. Okay, a lot of times when you are experiencing a season of failure, and notice my language, a season of failure, all right, we have a tendency to burn through money, burn through relationships, burn through resources. You got to watch your resources as you're growing your company. You made a mistake over here, all right, but guess what? You're still spending money. Okay, you're still paying for manufacturing. You're still paying for potential storage. If you have a storefront, you're still paying rent. Or if you have a mortgage, you're still paying your mortgage. So watch your resources. Okay? When you're growing, when you are failing, you got to watch your resources because it's really easy to burn through money. All right? And here's where I like to get past the first 2, and then I love to get to step number 3. Step number 3 is go back to square one, go back to day 1, go back to the drawing board, go back to your journal, and then when you go back to your journal, when you go back to your drawing board, when you go back to your ideas, get there. Go back to square one, if you want to call it that, and then when you get to square one, the drawing board, the journal, then jump out of the square. do something opposite of your original sketch or your original design or your original packaging. Go completely against what you originally set out. Now, I'm not saying get crazy. The point I'm saying is sometimes the answer that you need is right in your face and you were looking at it the wrong way the whole time. I'm going to say it again. Sometimes the answer was right in your face and you were simply looking at your own design or your own idea or your own color scheme or your own service the wrong way. So sometimes you got to go back to the beginning, turn that paper upside down and see if you see something different. And guess what? 95% of the time you don't see something different, but what you're looking for is the 5% that make it. Remember, I did a video earlier this year. Roughly 5% of people make it. And what I mean by that is they achieve their dreams, goals, and aspirations. And so when you go back to your journal, when you go back to your designs, when you go back to your schematics, you're looking for the 5% that you didn't see the first time. And I get excited about that 5% because it's that 5% that if you properly put in its context or you properly put it in the formula of success, that's where you become extremely successful. And we're defining success on your own terms. All right. And then this is step 4. And this is probably the hardest step of them all. Obviously, the third step is what everybody likes. The fourth step is possibly the hardest one of them all, is when your design does not work and you have to rework your whole formula. Most businesses call it this. You got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them and go home. You got to know when you got to burn the whole thing down and use the fuel that you're burning as a catapult to a new design. Notice, I didn't say throw everything away. It sounds like I'm saying that, but what I'm saying is sometimes the car you design, if you're an artist, or sometimes the rhyme, the song that you design, it needs to be completely changed around. You got to change one verse for another verse. You got to change one bar for a completely different bar. You got to change the drums, the drum pitch. You got to change the drum line. You got to change the spacing of the crescendo. You got to change the language. You got to change the whole instrumental around. Yes, you're using the same sounds. Maybe you change the timing of the song. Maybe it goes from a fast song to a slow song. The point is you have to be able to be mature enough to where you use the raw material that you started with and rework the whole design. And what was a fast song now becomes a slow song. Okay? And you can't be afraid of that. No, you're not a failure. You're using your experience from the first 3 steps and you've come to the best solution. That's the hardest one to grip because most people don't want to be wrong. Most people think every idea they have is a great idea, and that's tough. Okay? It's your man Earl, episode 162, the 4 steps to bounce back from failing. Say it again, the 4 steps to bounce back from failing. Episode 162 is your man Earl, June 11th, 2023. God bless you. God keep you. We'll catch you, Lord willing, tomorrow. Peace.